Christ and the teachings of the Church to life for children and families alike. Reverent artwork, engaging stories, and thoughtful activities inspire young hearts to understand the faith and grow in love for it. Find these and more at castleofgrace.com, where faith and family meet in every page. That's castleofgrace.com.
RealEstateForLife.org is a proud sponsor of the Station of the Cross. Are you selling your home for a warmer or more family-friendly region? Real Estate for Life has 1,400 Christ-centered, conscientious, and experienced agents in the U.S. and Canada. Their trustworthy vendors can also help with real estate planning and refinancing. RealEstateForLife.org, a one-stop shop for real estate and financial planning. And don't forget to mention the Station of the Cross.
The Catholic Current, bringing Christ to the world and the world to Christ.
I have no clue what my future looks like. I know who my future is, and it lies in the hands of Christ. I'm not worried about where I'm going to live, what I'm going to do. My life, I want it to be His, and there's such a freedom in that. I never, ever thought that I would find freedom in a laid-down, surrendered life to Christ.
The Catholic Current, 5 p.m. Eastern, from the Station of the Cross and on the iCatholic Radio mobile app.
Some atheistic scientists claim we don't need God to explain the universe because science is sufficient to get the job done. But is this true? The answer is no, and here's the reason. Science could never negate the need for God because it can't give an exhaustive explanation of the universe. First, it relies on the inductive method in order to validate its hypotheses. As such, scientists can never be certain they've discovered every piece of data necessary to give a complete explanation. They must always be open to discovering something new that could alter their current theory. Furthermore, science presupposes an existing universe to observe and explain. Thus, it could never explain why the universe exists in the first place rather than not. Science has explanatory power, but not enough power to negate the need for God. I'm Carlo Broussard with a ready reason for Catholic Answers, Catholic.com.
The Station of the Cross Catholic Media Network presents Saints and Seasons. On March 5th, we celebrate the feast of St. Kieran the Elder, Bishop and Confessor. Kieran was born in County Cork in the 4th or 5th century and is considered the first of all saints born in Ireland. At some point, he journeyed to Rome in order to properly learn the Catholic faith. Some accounts say that he was consecrated a bishop on the continent, but others maintain that he was consecrated by St. Patrick himself once Kieran had returned to Ireland. In either case, Kieran served the Irish people as both a bishop and an abbot, having founded a monastery at Sir Kieran, and he is regarded as the first bishop of what is now the Diocese of Ossory. Kieran's widowed mother took the religious veil at the hands of her own son. In several traditional sources, Kieran has been identified with Saint Piran, a patron of Cornwall who shares this feast day and several similarities in the accounts of their lives, though many scholars contend that they were indeed two distinct saints. Some traditional accounts also claim, perhaps controversially, that St. Kieran's activities in Ireland actually preceded St. Patrick's mission, though there is no certainty either way. Also celebrated on this day are St. Carthagius, a disciple and successor of St. Kieran, St. John Joseph of the Cross, and many other martyrs, confessors, and holy virgins. For more about the saints and seasons of the Catholic Church, visit thestationofthecross.com/saints and seasons.
Catholic radio has just been a lifesaver for me. I still listen to it every day. I start my day with it. I listen to it all day long as much as I can. I am very grateful for it.
It's just an amazing thing to have as I am new to Catholicism. Obviously, it's not only helping me, but it's helping so many other people on their walk.
Thank you. God bless you for iCatholic Radio. It has changed my life.
Donate today at thestationofthecross.com.
This is Joe McClane, and you're listening to the Station of the Cross, proclaiming the fullness of the truth with clarity and charity.
Heard around the world on your Android and Apple mobile devices.
Go into the world and tell every man that you meet, there is a man on the cross.
A Catholic Take. What you need to know right now. A bold synthesis of inspiration and information. Keeping you up to date on the news and issues from a courageous Catholic perspective.
A Catholic Take with Joe McClane starts now.
Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to A Catholic Take, a bold synthesis of information and inspiration. I'm your host, Joe McClane. Praise be to God. It's good to be on with you. There is lots to discuss. There's another attack on a Catholic church in Nigeria that nobody else is talking about. Pray for the suffering of those in Nigeria. There was a threat today to decimate southern Beirut. Israel trying to level southern Beirut, sending thousands fleeing to the coastline with literally nowhere to go. The Senate has now blocked the effort to rein in Trump and his Iran war powers. Nicholas Cavazos joins us at 14 past the hour to talk about, Trump's wartime powers, what that means. Also on the team today is Phil Lawler. This will be the first for a Catholic Take, praise be to God, to have Phil Lawler on the team. He is the author of some 12 books. He's been in the journalism business for a very long time, and he's going to talk about what Pope Leo did and didn't say and is not saying about the war with Iran, the warning of the violence spiraling out of control and the unbridgeable chasm with Phil Lawler coming up at 30 past the hour. Also, by the way, Kristi Noem has been fired from her DHS job. That's kind of interesting. And tonight, I will be filling in for Michael Hitchborn on the anchor team at the Lepanto Institute YouTube channel podcast at 6:30 Eastern, 5:30 Central. He's hosted for me when I've been on vacation or traveling many times. It's just been a real blessing to have him a part of us here at the Catholic Take Station of the Cross Catholic Media Network team. So I'm happy to return the favor for the Lepanto Institute. We're going to be talking about Catholic relief services over there on his channel, Lepanto Institute. So check that out if you can. We will, of course, put the show notes up for you at thestationofthecross.com/ACT at the top of the hour, which is where you can find the live video stream. You can get the audio podcast. You can sign up to be harassed by me in your email inbox, which, frankly, I'm not all that great at. I used to do it way more often. But nonetheless, you do get benefits. You do get benefits like access to the private Telegram group on the back end. Find out by signing up today, thestationofthecross.com/ACT. Let's get after it. Much to discuss. And by the way, please keep Lou Holtz and his repose in your prayers. He passed away yesterday. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, amen. Remember, O most gracious Virgin Mary, that never was it known that anyone who fled to thy protection, implored thy help, or sought thine intercession was left unaided. Inspired by this confidence, I fly unto thee, O Virgin of Virgins, my mother. To thee do I come, before thee I stand sinful and sorrowful. O Mother of the Word incarnate, despise not my petitions, but in thy mercy hear and answer me. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, and now your saint of the day.
Saint Kieran the Elder, pray for us. Kieran was born in County Cork in the 4th or 5th century and is considered the first of all saints born in Ireland. At some point, he journeyed to Rome to properly learn the Catholic faith. Some accounts say that he was consecrated a bishop on the continent, but others maintain that he was consecrated by St. Patrick himself once Kieran had returned to Ireland. In either case, Kieran served the Irish people as both a bishop and an abbot, having founded a monastery, and he is regarded as the first bishop of what is now the Diocese of Ossory. Kieran's widowed mother took the religious veil at the hands of her own son. In several traditional sources, Kieran has been identified with St. Piran, a patron of Cornwall, who shares this feast day and several similarities in the accounts of their lives, though many scholars contend that they were indeed two distinct saints. Some traditional accounts also claim, perhaps controversially, that St. Kieran's activities in Ireland actually preceded St. Patrick's mission, though there is no certainty either way. For more about the saints and seasons of the Catholic Church, visit thestationofthecross.com/saints and seasons. St. Kieran the Elder, pray for us.
And now your headline news. Ground News reports Trump says he will replace DHS Secretary Kristi Noem with Senator Markwayne Mullin. President Donald Trump announced on Truth Social today that he is replacing Department of Homeland Security Kristi Noem with Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin effective March the 31st. Under pressure from controversies over enforcement and spending, NOAM faced bipartisan criticism during hearings, including scrutiny over a $220 million Mount Rushmore ad campaign since February 13th, which he said he did not sign off on. Reuters reports Israel orders residents to leave southern Beirut. An Israeli military spokesman in a post on X today ordered residents of the southern suburbs to move east and north, posting a map showing 4 sprawling districts of the capital. He said that they must leave. Roads out of the suburbs were clogged as people fled by car and on foot. Gunfire was heard in the southern suburbs, warning residents to leave. Zeal reports Vatican criticizes strikes as Iran war reaches the 5th day. Vatican Secretary of State Cardinal Pietro Parolin spoke out March the 4th against the joint U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iran as the Trump admin defended the operation and signaled the conflict is accelerating. And those are your headline news. The gospel today comes to us from the 1962 Missal, St. Luke, chapter 16, verses 19 through 31. At that time, Jesus said to the Pharisees, "There was a certain rich man who was clothed in purple and fine linen and feasted sumptuously every day. And there was a certain beggar named Lazarus who lay at his gate full of sores, desiring to be filled with the crumbs that fell from the rich man's table, and no one did give him. Moreover, the dogs came and licked his sores. And it came to pass that the beggar died and was carried by the angels into Abraham's bosom. And the rich man also died, and he was buried in hell. And lifting up his eyes, when he was in torments, he saw Abraham afar off and Lazarus in his bosom. And he cried and said, Father Abraham, have mercy upon me, and send Lazarus that he may dip the tip of his finger into water and cool my tongue, for I am tormented in this flame. And Abraham said to him, Son, remember that thou didst receive good things in thy lifetime, and likewise Lazarus evil things. But now he is comforted, and thou art tormented. And besides all this, between us and you there is fixed a great chaos, so that they who would pass from hence to you cannot, nor from thence come hither. And he said, Then, Father Abraham, I beseech thee, that thou wouldst send him to my father's house, for I have 5 brethren, that he may testify unto them, lest they also come into this place of torments. And Abraham said to him, They have Moses and the prophets, let them hear them. But he said, No, Father Abraham, but if one went to them from the dead, they will do penance. And he said to him, If they hear not Moses and the prophets, neither will they believe if one rise again from the dead. The Gospel of the Lord. Laus tibi Christi. Think about the force with which Jesus says this to the Pharisees, to the Jews, looking them in the eye, telling them this story. Is it true? Is it history? Is it a parable? We'll get back to that in a moment. But what's the bottom line? That they are so worldly that their eyes are blocked, their mind is clouded, and they can't see that their Messiah, their God, their Creator stands before them, offering them salvation, knowing they will reject him all the same. And even when he comes back from the dead, still they will reject him. Father Machiavelli would say, our Lord shows the reward attached to the faithful dispensation of the goods of this world, the punishment of privation of grace and glory attached to their abuse. And here, in order to strike terror into the Pharisees who sneered at him and all others whom it might concern, he shows by a frightful example in which he vividly depicts the tortures of the damned, the dreadful punishment of neglecting to employ the goods of this world in relieving the known necessities of the poor. Father Machiavelli goes on, Our Lord, while mentioning the name of the beggar Lazarus, suppresses the name of the rich man condemned to hell out of a feeling of consideration for himself and his 5 brethren, whom he left after him, and also to convey that his name was blotted out of the book of the living. His name was never to be mentioned because it's been blotted out of the book of the living. You should ruminate on that. Take that in for a moment. Moreover, he conveys by this how different God's judgments are from those of men who blazon forth the names of the rich and powerful and regard the names of the poor as undeserving of mention. The tables have turned. Cornelius a Lapide in the great commentary would say, there was a certain rich man. You ask, is this a parable or true history? I answer, a history. Number 1, because Christ does not call it a parable. Number 2, because the poor man is named Lazarus, and the rich man, according to a Hebrew tradition quoted by Euthemius, is called a native of Nice. St. Gregory the Great teaches that we cannot indulge in reveling without sin, for when the body is given up to the enjoyment of the feast, the heart is led away to empty rejoicing. As it is written, the people sat down to eat and drink and rose up to play. Exodus 32:6, the golden calf, after they were saved from Egypt. They fashioned a golden calf with all that gold the Egyptians gave to them. Then they had a feast and then an orgy. That's what the rose up to play meant. And then they gave adoration to a demon, a fallen angel, rather than God. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Don't go anywhere.
iCatholic Mobile is a proud sponsor of the Station of the Cross. Your cellular service should work when you need it. Dependable calls, reliable data, and customer service you can count on. iCatholic Mobile provides nationwide 5G service, unlimited talk and text, and free roaming in Canada and Mexico. And every plan helps sustain the Station of the Cross, keeping faith-filled programming on the air. More info at iCatholicMobile.com.
Hear what our listeners are saying about the regularly updated iCatholic Radio mobile app.
iCatholic Radio is the most truthful and important site that any of us could ever listen to today. We get the truth. We get good people telling us what is going on in the world. Thank you so much. It's a gift from God.
Download the free iCatholic Radio mobile app today on your Android or Apple mobile device.
A prayer to the Sacred Heart that St. Gertrude the Great wrote. I salute thee, O Sacred Heart of Jesus, living and vivifying source of eternal life, infinite treasure of the divinity, ardent furnace of divine love. Thou art the place of my repose and my refuge. Enkindle in my heart the fire of that ardent love with which thine own is inflamed. Pour into my heart the great graces of which thine is the source, and grant that my heart may be so closely united to thine, that thy will may be mine, and that my will may be eternally conformed to thine, since I desire that henceforth thy holy will may be the rule of all my desires and all my actions. Amen.
Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to A Catholic Take, a bold synthesis of information and inspiration. I'm your host, Joe McClane. Praise be to God. It's good to be on with you. And can I just say thank you to our sponsor, iCatholicMobile.com. Great friend of the show here at A Catholic Take and great sponsor of what we do at the Station of the Cross Catholic Media Network. It's more than just a cell phone company. Yes, it's unlimited data, great service. It's got all of that. That's true. But it's the fact that my cell phone is Catholic. Praise be to Jesus. My service provider is Catholic. Is yours? I'm just curious. It's been a great service to my family, perhaps yours too. Check them out at iCatholicMobile.com. But we're talking about the Iran war conflict, and right now there is an interesting, there was a movement to regulate Trump's wartime powers, and right now apparently the majority of the Senate is blocking that bid. They seem to be in favor of all this. I've asked Nicholas Cavazos, traditional Thomist, to be on the team to give us his thoughts on wartime powers, because He's a huge fan of the war betwixt the states, where wartime powers were so real that it crossed the Potomac and burned Virginia. Nicholas, good afternoon. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Thanks for having me on, Joe. It's good to be here.
So what do you think about this story, wartime powers? What is your initial thoughts of the Israeli war with Iran that we're participating in, and Donald Trump's wartime powers?
Yeah, so to my knowledge, the Wartime Powers Act, I believe, is an act that came out in 1973, if memory's right, and essentially it grants the president the ability to go to war with, somewhere around like 60 to 90 days or so. He has to give Congress somewhere between a 48 to a 72-hour kind of preview that this is going to be taking place. And there's, of course, the attempt that looks like it has failed in the Senate to stop that in the context of the current war right now with Iran. And so, of course, that's fun. As far as my own personal views on just kind of how this is going, I have very mixed views because on the one hand, conflicts between both Israel, the United States, and Iran do go back a good ways. And so like for instance, my father, he's much more of a fan of what's going on than say I am. He points out a lot of good points when it comes to the hostilities that the Iranians have had under this regime for quite a while against the United States. That being said, of course, I'm much more of an isolationist. I do think that while you can make some good points, you got to have some pretty darn good reasons to being involved over there. And I'm much more skeptical at the moment. And so I'm willing to be convinced on both sides, but I'm still leaning pretty strongly toward this is maybe not the wisest of ideas.
What would the limits to his wartime powers be? Do we have a sense of that? If this were to go through in Congress, how would we be limiting him?
Yeah, so essentially, from what it looks like on a practical level, it would come down to questions like, this is what I think, would the president be able to use something like nuclear weaponry? Does he get kind of carte blanche to use nuclear weaponry against some type of enemies without any congressional, oversight or prevention of something like that? These are the questions that come to mind. Realistically, though, how it would look, in my opinion, is you would probably see a much stronger scale back of the current operations that are going on at the moment. And so if this Senate attempt was to succeed, you would very easily possibly see something to the effect of a curbing of not only the missile strikes that are going on right now, but also the strikes particularly in the Strait of Hormuz, which is affecting the international oil industry at the moment. And so that's more realistically, I think, what it would look like.
I think a lot of Americans are feeling right now that, we had hoped that Donald Trump would be the president that would bring peace. Instead, we've now seen multiple military conflicts. Now this is the second one in Iran already. And then, of course, there's Venezuela and who knows what else. Donald Trump seems to be trending in the opposite direction that some of his campaign promises suggested.
Yeah, I would say per se, maybe. The reason I say that is just because, there's a clip going around X right now that is an old interview, I think from like the 80s or the 90s or something like that, of a young Donald Trump getting asked a question about the situation in Iran. And it's a famous famous interview where he talks about if he was president, he would be engaging in some type of hostilities against them because he's always seen them as some form of an adversary. So one could argue that this has always been Trump's desire. And I think that if you take maybe a 30,000-foot view at this thing, I think Trump wants the United States to end up in a much more strategically nationalistic, powerful strength sense than it was, say, under the Obama administration, especially under the Biden administration. That's, I think, the angle that he's taking. And so it's not as isolationistic as I would per se want, but I don't know if it would be strictly a campaign break. Again, what makes this a tough situation is that we very much so want to get done with forever wars. But this is an armed escalation that in some form or fashion has been going on for a while now. And is also very new in the sense of just what's been going on over the last weekend. What I personally hope is if you're going to be involved, which we are, get what you want accomplished, done super quick, and then get out of there. That's how I've always looked at wars in the modern era. It's like if you have to do something, run in, hit them up, and then leave. That's how I look at it.
I mean, they have said that. Pete Hegseth has now mentioned that in one of his press briefings out of the Pentagon, that he even used the words forever wars. I believe in that in his statements. So I think they're hearing the American people who are not happy with this and saying we're going to do the mission and be done with the mission. But I think it still begs the question, what is the mission? When do we know the mission is accomplished? I had a conversation yesterday with retired Army Colonel Matt Dooley. You know, we keep killing their leaders. We've hit their leadership twice with bombs. Now today, Donald Trump is saying he wants to be able to make the decision on who gets to be the next leader. The Israelis have threatened that they're going to assassinate whomever it is, no matter what. There's no one to negotiate with. So where's the exit ramp in all of this? And I think this is part of the reason why a lot of Americans are like, we want Congress to make a vote on whether or not we do wartime activities rather than just carte blanche. It seems like there does need to be some scaling back.
Yeah, I'd love to see Congress actually do more than twiddle their thumbs and like to say things like, you know, we want term limits but never pass it. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think realistically what Trump is going to be doing is he wants someone to make a good deal with, and he will use hyperbolic language, so will the Israelis, in order to instill some form of fear in his opposition. Ultimately, I think that if the former government, if you will, or the former heads of the government of Iran were willing to make some form of a deal, Trump will be much more inclined to acquiesce their request of sitting down and doing something. That being the case, though, through their, proxies and through all of their finger wagging, there's of course been a lot of issues with the United States.
I think we just had an interruption from Nicholas Cavazos, the Trishul Thomas. Your internet cut out on us for a second. Can you repeat what you just said, please?
Sure, yeah. Realistically, what I think is going to be taking place in the future is with Trump saying something like, I want to be able to pick who's in charge. Realistically, that's hyperbolic language to say, I want a good person to make a deal with. And I want someone that's ultimately going to be friendly to the United States, not one of these Islamic caliphate nonsense people that we've seen for a long time. That's what I realistically see. Again, it doesn't necessarily satisfy you and I, who are much more isolationistic, but it does at least help you see maybe where he's coming from.
If you could decide, if you were in charge, right, as a Holy Roman Emperor, I could put you in charge of these things. Let's pretend for a second. What would you say would be the fair, wartime power for the executive of the United States? What could he do? What shouldn't he do?
I think there's some basic principles that one can take from even the 1973 Act. So I would say it's realistic in the case of, per se, some type of an emergency that the president would be able to bypass Congress. That being the case, of course, ambiguity in the law never helps anybody. And so here we are in situations like this. So I would probably, if it was me, I would frame it much more around the level of national defense in the context of some imminent provable threat. And this needs to be a provable threat that can be illustrated very concretely to the American people. That being said, of course, we do have to take into account modern technology and modern weaponry. And so if in a case like this, the Iranians are, slowly, but yet far away, but yet somehow close, who knows, to building some type of nuclear weaponry, I would say in the context of stuff like this, we don't need to be using any type of nuclear weapons or anything to that effect. This needs to be much more hemmed back. And so I would say, yeah, we need clarity when it comes to what the president is allowed to use. We also need clarity on what context they're allowed to use these things. And they need to be demonstrated much more clearly to the American people than I think that we're currently being told. Because even hearing the stuff that I'm hearing from Trump, and I say this as a Trump supporter in a general sense, it's still too eerily similar to weapons of mass destruction. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. We talked a lot about this earlier this week with Jason Jones. It was the Israelis who kept giving us the weapons of mass destruction line out of Iraq, and then we spent 20 years there. How'd that work out? Okay, well, there's also a report out that the CIA is working and arming Kurdish fighters in hopes that they will perpetuate sort of a takeover of the government and an uprising there. How do we feel about that when it comes to wartime powers? Because no matter how we seem to vote every 4 years or every 2 years, because the midterms, it doesn't seem to change foreign policy. It doesn't seem to change what happens at the CIA or the NSA or the intelligence apparatus. They do what they do no matter who's sitting in the White House.
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say, ultimately, there's only so much you can do when it comes to what a foreign government is doing when it comes to arming people. That being said, of course, our hand has always been in the cookie jar in some form or fashion. And so we have to be very careful about keeping our own leaders accountable. But when it comes to just the state in which the government is going to exercise their very belligerent foreign policy, this is one of those issues where it's like, on a practical level of voting, what can you really do? Because I think about this, and it's like, you and I have talked about this before, after 1865, we essentially have a very big government, very nationalistic, authoritarian structure. And I say authoritarian not necessarily in the context of tyranny, but just big, strong arming of what they want to get done. And so in order to limit that, what can we realistically do? Well, I would say maybe put in the wisest guy into that position, because unfortunately, it doesn't seem either party wants to really put forward a more moderate candidate when it comes to that. I do think Trump, by contrast to many neocons, is much more moderate. I think that he has his own vision of what he wants to be seen when it comes to the Middle East. But unfortunately, I still think it's miles away from where you and I would want, as well as many other conservatives.
I think a lot of people and Americans are sort of waking up to the fact that Israel seems to be the tail that wags the dog. Do you think Trump is smart and figures this out or understands that?
I do. I honestly, I understand the line of attack when it comes to criticism of Israel. I am a critic of the state of Israel, as you know. I say this all the time, both in my public and private life. That being the case, though, I think that one has to look at this with a bit more nuance and recognize, while it is true that Israel does have far too much influence in our foreign policy, I do not think this line of argumentation of where Trump is kind of like this, he's Zondan and he's like the lapdog of Netanyahu. I don't believe that's realistic. He's his own candidate, and he'll make sure that he wants to get done what he wants to get done.
All right, Nicholas Cavazos for the Churchill Thomas podcast. Appreciate your input today. God bless you, brother. Look forward to having you back next week. Let's talk with Phil Lawler coming up in just about 2 minutes from now. Let's talk about what the Pope said, what the Pope didn't say when he called for peace, and he warned about the chasm. Boy, the chasm. This is pretty strong language. The violence that spirals out of control, and he warned us about the unbridgeable chasm. I think it's an important topic as we pray for peace in our world and an end to the violence. And we especially need to keep the southern Beirut population in our prayers, because they might be seeing a bombing campaign here at any moment. But Phil Lawler joins us in 2 minutes from now. Don't go anywhere. Do us a favor, though. Share us with a friend. We'll be right back.
Join the Station of the Cross every Saturday morning at 9 after the 8 a.m. Holy Mass, and Sunday afternoons at 2 for a teaching episode on the Catechism of the Catholic Church. You'll learn the essential and fundamental content of our Catholic faith and morals in a complete and concise way with clarity and charity. That's Saturday mornings at 9 and Sunday afternoons at 2 here on the Station of the Cross, Catholic Media Network, and the free iCatholic Radio mobile app.
Catholic radio has just been a lifesaver for me. I still listen to it every day. I start my day with it. I listen to it all day long as much as I can. I am very grateful for it.
It's just an amazing thing to have, as I am new to Catholicism. Obviously, it's not only helping me, but it's helping so many other people on their walk.
Thank you. God bless you for iCatholic Radio. It has changed my life.
Donate today at thestationofthecross.com.
The Station of the Cross Catholic Media Network is dedicated to answering the critical need of access to quality, consistent, professional, and proven Catholic programming. We cannot rely on other media outlets to properly represent our Church. Catholic Radio reaches Catholics, non-Catholic Christians, and non-believers alike. As a nonprofit lay organization financially independent of your diocese, our apostolate is listener-supported.
At the Station of the Cross, we understand that life circumstances can affect your giving options, whether by moving or by switching banks and credit card numbers. Please let us know if recent changes have been made to your payment information so that we can better serve you as you continue to bless us with your financial support. Update your information today at thestationofthecross.com or by calling 1-877-888-6279, extension 104.
Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to A Catholic Take, a bold synthesis of information and inspiration. I'm your host, Joe McClane, and here are your headline news. Ground News reports Trump says he must be involved in selecting Iran's next leader. President Donald Trump said that he should be involved in picking Iran's next supreme leader, calling Mojtaba Khomeini unacceptable. The successor will yield near absolute authority over foreign policy, military, judiciary, and the nuclear program, while Israel Katz, Israel's defense minister, threatened to assassinate anybody chosen as leader. CBS reports 37 million pounds of food sold at retailers nationwide recalled. A recall of some 37 million pounds of food product was issued due to potential glass contamination. The contamination likely originated from a vegetable ingredient believed to be carrots in products from brands like Kroger, Ling Ling, Taipei, Trader Joe's, and others. The products were distributed nationwide and some were exported to Canada and Mexico with best buy dates ranging from February 2026 all the way to August of 2027. And Zeal reports the CIA is arming the Kurds in Iran. There are reports that the CIA has been working with Kurdish opposition groups ahead of a potential popular uprising against the Iranian government. The White House acknowledged President Donald Trump has been in touch with the Kurds in the region, but said that any reports of U.S. commitment to a specific plan are completely false. And those are your headline news. Praise be to God in all things. When the violence, the attacks against Iran broke over the weekend, His Holiness Pope Leo XIV spoke out. He warned about the spiral of violence getting out of control to the point of unbridgeable chasm. I think a lot of people misunderstood what His Holiness was saying, but Phil Lawler is joining us now to talk about it. He's got an article on his Substack. We're going to link to it. It's pflawler.substack.com, but we'll put it in the show notes today. Phil, good afternoon. Thank you for your time today.
Oh, thanks for having me on.
First, let me get your general reaction to the American-Israeli attack on Iran. What are your thoughts in general?
I'm very concerned about it. Well, to put it backwards first, I wonder what does victory look like for the U.S. here? What is our goal? What is our strategy for reaching that goal? And then rolling backwards, looking at it from the perspective of just war thinking, which has been a study of mine for decades, I ask a question about proportionality. What is the goal that justifies the level of violence that this is likely to involve?
Mike, on that point alone, one of my concerns is just the infrastructure. So we're hitting targets over there. We own the skies. That's what the Pete Hegseth said. We own the skies. Israel's hitting targets. We're hitting targets. I wonder how much of that might translate to infrastructure, the ability to process sewage water, for instance. You know, how much infrastructure is being targeted versus military targets? There's not really been any information, but we have seen in Gaza that they've been pretty much wiped out. The infrastructure is wiped out there. So if we're trying to free these people, that's the claim, are they going to be able to take up the, are they going to be able to live tomorrow? Are they going to be able to make water? Are they going to be able to have the infrastructure to maintain society? There's been no talk of that, has there?
No. And even before you talk about infrastructure and whether they can live tomorrow, are going to be in casual, always are. This war could.
Phil, do me a favor. Can you just repeat that? Your internet cut out on us, so we missed what you just said. Would you do us a favor and just repeat that, please?
Sure. I'm saying there will be, and almost certainly have been already, civilian casualties, which is tragic. And the war is very likely to spread. The Middle East is ready to explode at any time. We don't know if this war is going to move into Syria, into Turkey, with the Kurds, into Lebanon.
Phil, I'm gonna pause you right there. Your internet's really cutting out on us. I'm gonna ask James to get you on by phone so that we can better understand what you're saying. In the meantime, I do want to just to your point here. I've already mentioned this at the top of the hour, but Israel has sent out a warning to everybody in South Lebanon that they are to evacuate South Beirut because they're going to bomb this place. And all these people, thousands and thousands, have literally nowhere to go. They're told to go towards the coast or go to the north or just get out of the way. They have to leave their homes. And I just want you to imagine that for a second. You're at home, then all of a sudden you get a phone call, robocall from the IDF saying you better get out now because otherwise you're going to be bombed. On one hand, you're kind of glad that they warned you ahead of time rather than just drop the bomb. But on the other hand, that's your home that you may not ever get to come back to. But Joe, the Hezbollah, they're bad people. I don't disagree. I don't love Hezbollah. I don't love the terror state that Iran has fostered over decades. But nonetheless, should we wipe out this city because there's an enemy there? Imagine if that was our principle. Would there be any inner cities left in America? Because there's a lot of criminal activity, drug traffickers, cartels, gangsters of all kinds. I think it's a principle that goes too far, impacting civilians that should not be impacted. But that's war. War is hell, and this is why I think we should avoid it. Phil Lawler, who we're going to get on the phone and get him back so I can better hear him because his internet was cutting out. Let me just go to his article here. His article from the Substack. He says, what the Pope actually said about Iran. Be aware, headlines rarely capture papal statements accurately. James, just let me know when he's on by phone. He says, if you've read a report that Pope Leo condemned the Trump administration for the strikes on Iran, you were misinformed. When the Pope spoke at his Sunday audience, he certainly disapproved of the military action, but he chose his words carefully and never actually mentioned Trump or the U.S. or Israel. The Pope used diplomatic language when reporters tried to reduce his few sentences to a single headline. They were drawing their own inferences. I make this point not to defend Trump's military adventure, which I have no interest in defending, but to call attention to a danger that arises whenever the secular media reports on papal statements. Here's an important rule of thumb. Whenever you see a report on a statement by the Pope, look for the quotation marks. If the report is accurate, and don't be too quick to take that for granted, anything inside the quotation marks is what the Pope actually said. Whether it's taken out of context is another question. Anything that's not inside the quote is the reporter's interpretation of what the Pope said. You may, of course, trust the reporter, but if you care enough to spend an extra minute, go to the Vatican website and find the actual statement. Here, for example, is what Pope Leo said on Sunday about the Iran war in the official Vatican translation. He says, quote, I'm following with deep concern what is happening in the Middle East and in Iran during this tumultuous time. Stability and peace are not achieved through mutual threats nor through the use of weapons, which now destruction, suffering, and death, but only through reasonable, sincere, and responsible dialogue. I think Phil Lawler's back on with us this time by phone. Phil, are you there?
I am.
Again, I'm grateful. Thank you for jumping on the phone so we can more clearly hear you. I was just reading through your article, and again, I'm going to link to it in the show notes. And, I was following up to what you were saying about sort of the collateral damage with civilians. I'm using South Beirut as an example of this. The IDF has warned them, hey, we're going to bomb, so get out to save your life. But at the same time, they're going to destroy their homes, their livelihoods.
Exactly.
Is that cost seems too much.
It is, and it's easy to say it's collateral damage from our perspective. If you're living in one of those homes, it's no longer collateral damage, it's your livelihood. And as I was saying, maybe this didn't get through. There is a track record of what happens when we try to intervene in the Middle East. And look at Iraq. Are the people in Iraq better off now than they were before we intervened? Those are the questions that worry me. And I can sketch a scenario how this all comes out very well, but I can also sketch scenarios where it comes out very poorly.
Right. So, the Pope, when he speaks up, obviously everyone's a critic. I myself have been very critical of pontificates not so far in the past. So everyone has an opinion every time the Pope speaks up. But at the end of the day, I think we should all agree that the Pope should say something in this case, right? I mean, he should be saying something.
He should. And the reason I wrote that particular article, and I've written something else since on Substack about my ideas on the justice of the war, but I wrote about that because I saw so many people taking what the Pope had said and putting it in a really very purely partisan context. What he said, I don't see how many people could object to it. I mean, he's in favor of peace. Is that controversial? He's in favor of negotiations, if negotiations are a way to stop war. Is that controversial? I mean, one should always be ready to negotiate, even in the middle of a war.
And yet, I mean, just this week over at the National Catholic Register, Edward Penton has an article over there. Headline says, Pope Pius XII, expert, no serious historian can call him Hitler's Pope. I mean, after the war, he was, often labeled Hitler's Pope because they claimed he didn't speak out enough. So there's almost like some precedent here in the pontificate of the consequences of popes speaking out. Now, I'm not equating this, the Pope criticizing the attack on Iran is not even close to the same gravity of what we saw in the Second World War in Europe. But at the same time, do you think popes are hesitant because either people won't understand or it'll be taken out of context or worse?
They may be hesitant, but again, I think what the Pope said was worded in diplomatic languages. When I saw a headline saying Pope rebukes Trump, I looked at the statement and I looked for Trump's name. It's not there. He doesn't mention the U.S. He doesn't mention Trump. He says he's concerned. And if you look at things through such a partisan lens that you don't think the Pope should express concern, then I just disagree heartily.
Yeah. And I guess for my part, I'm very concerned about the spiraling of violence. I'm concerned for my wife and for my children, for my grandkids. We always seem to be dancing on the edge, the precipice of a World War III. It's as though we really, really want another global war. I don't know why we would want this thing. And I certainly don't want to contribute my sons, let alone my daughters, which even Republicans want to take these days in another draft in the future. Like, I don't want to give my children to this cause. So we should be hesitant. We should be more prayerful, penitential, acts of reparation. We should try to bring back the world from the brink. But the world seems hell-bent, Phil Lawler.
Well, I pretty much agree with you. Again, I look at this whole thing from a perspective of the Catholic tradition of just war thinking. And in just war thinking, there's always a presumption against war. War is always a last resort. You always, if you have to go to war, you do it with the least violence possible. You're careful about civilians. You're looking for a way to find a just peace. And the only reason to fight a just war, as St. Augustine said, is to secure a just peace. So I come back to the first thing I said, which is, what is the peace that we're trying to secure here? What does victory look like? What are we trying to do?
Okay, we're going to be right at a break here in a moment, but let me just set this up and we'll carry on over. What would it take? What would it have to look like, in your opinion, for this to be a just war?
It would have to be a war that respects civilians, that minimizes collateral damage, that does not pursue selfish national reasons like lowering the price of oil, and that has a strategy for victory that actually makes the world a better place.
Hold that thought. Phil Lawler's our guest. Interesting you bring up oil. We had Aaron Kildow from This Week in Oil podcast on earlier this week to talk about the impact on oil, and oil's going up right now. I think it was like $80 a barrel this morning, if I remember correctly. That Strait of Hormuz, Iran can't really shut it down. They don't have the capability. But insurers just won't insure ships going through there right now, so it's essentially shut down anyway. So you're going to be feeling the pinch at the gas pump. I find that very, very interesting. But I want to follow up on this just war. What would it look like? And how do we get off of this train ride? Like, if we keep killing their leadership and keep assassinating, who do we actually negotiate with? More on that in 2 minutes. Don't go anywhere.
commanded the apostles to preach the gospel without fear, to proclaim the truth from the housetops. Now From the Housetops Radio is a weekly program that features the same Catholic doctrine, devotion, and inspiration published for over 45 years in From the Housetops magazine. Produced by the slaves of the Immaculate Heart of Mary at St. Benedict Center in Still River, Massachusetts, From the Housetops offers inspirational lives of the saints, guidance from the great masters of the spiritual life, reflections on the liturgical year, church history, apologetics, commentary on current events, and much more. Now you can tune in weekly to From the Housetops Radio. Join us every Saturday at 6 p.m. right here on the Station of the Cross Catholic Media Network. That's From the Housetops, Saturdays at 6 p.m.
At the Station of the Cross Catholic Media Network, we proudly bring the truths of the Catholic faith to countless listeners through radio and mobile devices. Hear how our listeners have been impacted.
I found Catholic radio about 4 years ago. I would say that I'm obsessed with it. I listen to it on my way to work. I listen to it when I pick up my son in the afternoon. I listen to it when I get to work. And I also listen to it 3 times in the middle of the night, usually. Sometimes I just have things on my mind, and just knowing that it's there is bringing me comfort. I like making donations so that I can keep Catholic radio on the air and hopefully touch other people as much as Catholic radio has touched me.
If you've been blessed by listening to the Station of the Cross, please let us know. Call 1-877-888-6279 extension 112 and share your testimonial with us.
Be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to a Catholic Take a Bold synthesis of information and inspiration. I'm your host, Joe McClane. Praise be to God. It's good to be on with you. Hey, coming up at the top of the hour, we say goodbye to the radio. We stay on the live video feed for today. Usually it's an hour. Today I'm going to do only a half hour because I'm hosting for Michael Hitchborn on his podcast tonight. So we'll do a half hour of taking your comments. You have a say. Your Catholic take will be shared in the com boxes of the live video stream. Just go to the stationofthecross.com/ACT, smash the watch live stream, and just underneath you can find the YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, and other places where you can contribute to the conversation. Let us know what your thinking is in the after show coming up at the top of the hour. thestationofthecross.com/ACT. We're having a conversation about His Holiness Pope Leo and his remarks about the Iran conflict with Phil Lawler, who has an article about it on his Substack, pflawler.substack.com. We'll link to it in the show notes at the top of the hour for you. Phil, welcome back to the show. We were talking about the just war theory again right before the break. And I had asked you, what would it need to look like in order for this to be considered a just war? And I also kind of want you to maybe address what would the Iranians need to do in order to justify our attacking them? Because, you know, everybody said that we're very concerned about them having a nuclear bomb. They have been a state sponsor of terrorism now for decades. They have, you know, hacking attacks and assassination attacks and all this other stuff. So have they fulfilled that need for a just war?
That's a very good question, and I don't have the answer because I don't have all the information. You know, if you look in the Catechism of the Catholic Church, it teaches that the final decisions about justice and war, about the use of military means, fall on the people, the political leaders of the country, because you assume that they have the best military intelligence and so forth. In this case, do you want Iran to have a nuclear weapon? Of course not. But didn't we just hear several months ago that after our bombing attacks last year, we had degraded their nuclear capacity?
Obliterated. I think the word was obliterated.
Yes. So now what has changed? Has something changed? Then we weren't told, or were we misinformed the last time? And then the question is, if they have a nuclear weapon, well, actually, unfortunately, there are a lot of countries that have nuclear weapons. Is there compelling evidence that they were about to use those weapons, or that they were about to
attack the U.S. or American interests in some very major way. We've been told now by the Trump administration that that Iran was just about to attack us. Well, is that the case? We don't know. There's been a whole lot of saber rattling between Iran and the U.S. recently. And to be fair, if you were in Iran, you might have been saying, well, the U.S. is threatening to attack us. There are aircraft carriers coming right towards our shores. So I'd like to see all the facts before I make a statement on that, but it's problematical at least.
I mean, the fog of war especially is very complex, and that's why they call it the fog of war. And there's always two sides to the story. And unfortunately, I don't know that we're ever going to get all the facts. We can't seem to get the facts about a lot of things in our current society and culture. Everything seems to be always fogged in mystery and drama. I don't see this changing at all. But the spread of this seems to also be very concerning to me. The last segment we talked about the southern Beirut being under threat of a bombing campaign by the Israeli government is just as an example of that. The Strait of Hormuz practically being shut down, not actually, but practically being shut down because insurers don't want to insure, the potential risks of going through there. So now you have gas prices going up. China can go for months with their oil reserves, but maybe not so many other Asian countries. They certainly can't. And Iran is still attacking some of these ships out near the strait. So we could see a global spread of this very quickly. And I don't know who would want that. That's absolutely, nobody should want this.
Exactly right. Nobody wants an escalation of violence in the Middle East. Every sane person knows that is the most volatile region in the world. And we want to treat it with kid gloves. So, as I say, I can see how this comes out well because Iran has been the sponsor of terrorism, and Iran is responsible for much of the violence that has occurred in the Middle East for the last, 47 years. So if we can eliminate that aspect of the problem, then that would be a good thing. But there are so many problems here. It's very difficult to see a simple solution. And what is this? What are we? Well, I keep coming back to the question I asked initially. What does victory look like? Are we going to try to put in our own government in Iran, in which case that usually doesn't go well? Or are we going to strike a compromise with something like the existing government, whoever is left? It's going to be a long time before we know.
We put the Shah in. How'd that go? That didn't go well.
No, it didn't. And it frightens me to see the enthusiasm in some places for putting his son in charge. Now, the Shah's government was not a good government.
Well,
it was an authoritarian government.
His son has spent all of his adult life living in the United States, as far as I know. Does he have any experience at running an administration? Does he have any experience running a country? So I just can't see that as a viable option. One that, nature abhors a vacuum, and there would be a massive vacuum, and who knows what bad actors might fill that void next. So every time that we play nation builder, we don't come away with great results, but we continue to do this as though we're going to get different results somehow next time. Doesn't seem very, very smart. But before I run out of time, let me go back to the Pope with you. What do you think the Pope should be doing now? What should he be saying? How should he be saying it? Is there anything you think he could do, even from a diplomatic perspective, and maybe under Parolin or his diplomatic corps, his nuncios, or any of that?
The only thing that I think realistically the Pope and the Vatican can do, I'm sure they're already doing, which is trying to get everybody talking to each other. And actually, the Vatican diplomatic corps is pretty good at that. But you won't hear about it because it's all done quietly. As it should be.
As it should be. There's a great book I've often quoted from at the Church of Spies about World War II, Pope Pius XII, working with the German Abwehr to try to bring about the end of the Nazi regime in Germany. the Vatican is not a stranger to this high stakes stuff. And so I would love to see more effort, or maybe they're already giving it, as you say, it's often, sort of down low or quiet. But I would love to see Pope speaking out more frequently for peace rather than war. Because again, something we said in the last segment, I'll just repeat it. We seem to be very eager for war. We seem to be very eager for violence. And I just don't see that ending well for anybody, whether it's civilians in Iran, civilians in Lebanon, or maybe even civilians in Israel either. Tel Aviv has had a few impacts of Iranian missiles this week as well.
Or civilians in the United States. I mean, this will take something out of us one way or another before it's over. And as I say, when it's over, maybe we'll enjoy the results, but let's not guarantee that. Let's not assume that everything we hope happens will happen, because that usually isn't the way wars work out.
No, it's not. Real quick, you got 30 seconds, but should we be isolationists? Should America just focus on America and less so on the rest of the world?
I don't think we can be, because I think there's nothing more dangerous than a superpower that's not acting as a superpower. But I will say this, I don't think we should have entangling alliances. I think we should work for our own interests and let other countries take care of themselves.
Phil Lawler, appreciate your time today. Thank you for joining us, and I appreciate you jumping on the phone so we can have a better connection with you. Hope to have you back soon. Check out his article on his Substack, pflawler.substack.com. We're going to put a link to it in the show notes for you, of course, what the Pope actually said about Iran. We'll put links to everything else for you at thestationofthecross.com/ACT. We're going to go into the after show on live video and take your comments, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow morning. So what did you think of today's show? Let's discuss that right now in the after show. Your take on the after take. Comment, interact live with me and the team. All you need to do is search for one of our live video feeds on Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, LinkedIn, and elsewhere. Simply search for the Station of the Cross, Joe McClane, or A Catholic Take. I'm looking forward to seeing you and interacting with you directly. It all starts right now. It's the after show.
Welcome back to the after show.
Nobody called me out on it so far. That's good. Praise
Other
God.
than me in the last 15 seconds.
You don't count, though. Of course you already know.
Oh, that was a stressful show, man.
Was it really stressful?
Well, with the internet issues, it's never a fun time.
I don't tell my kids this, but I stole some of their tea. They have their own stash. And whatever this is, it tastes like...
I was actually planning on calling your kids whose cell phone numbers I do not have and ratting you out for drinking their tea. That was top of the list of my agenda today.
It tastes like cereal, like breakfast cereal.
In a good way?
Like Sugar Smacks? Isn't that the one with the frog, the little beans? I mean, like, I don't know, man.
Sugar Smacks, not familiar.
It tastes like breakfast cereal to me. Like, what are my kids drinking tea, tasting like cereal for? Now I got to go figure that out. Hey, Paul, good afternoon. Says, can a link be posted, your fill in for Hitchborn? So it's just that I don't have the link. It's going to be a live video on his YouTube channel, Lepanto Institute. If you go to YouTube, search for the Lepanto Institute. You probably search for Michael Hitchborn as well. And it'll be posted. You'll be able to see it live at 6:30 Eastern Standard Time. Hitchborn has been very good to fill in for me on a number of occasions, so I'm returning the favor tonight by filling in for him.
Looks like there is a link already up, so I'm going to send it in the Telegram group.
Oh, cool. Nicholas, good afternoon to you. Praise be to God. Says, Joe, the blue collar guys I work with are all about attacking Iran. Seems like American conservatives, liberals with a better sense of morals, are bloodthirsty, and the American attacking other countries is always good. Well, you know, I used to be down for Bush, right? When I enlisted for the first Gulf War in 1991 for, you know, Bush Daddy, and then for Bush Jr. I was like, yeah, let's get revenge for 9/11. Like I get the sense that when you're when you think more along the lines from a conservative Republican point of view, you look through the world through that lens, then you're going to have that perspective. But when you switch your lens out for the Catholic one, I think you see things differently, and you start to ask exactly what are we conserving? Precisely what are we conserving as conservatives? Because we tend to be, very, very eager to go to war. And the reality is, who wins in war? Well, I can tell you in this one, Israel. Israel's going to be a big winner in this. So this is more of Israel's interest than our own. It's going to cost us how many billions of dollars to conduct this? Taxpayer dollars that my kids somehow have to cover. Is it worth that? Let alone how many lives lost? If this escalates, how many more lives even further are lost? God forbid. I hope it doesn't escalate. I hope this kind of comes and goes and we all can go back to, air quotes here, normal. But the industrial war complex, there's already, I know the Pentagon has said, we've got plenty of stock. No worries. We're good. We're good. We're good. They said that, was it yesterday? Pete Hegseth and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff addressed the stockpile rumors that they were low. They're saying we're good. We got plenty to sustain, plenty to defend. That's what they said. But there are rumors that they don't and that they're not telling us the truth. Guess who makes out in that regard? Ford made aircraft during the Second World War. So like manufacturers make a lot of money on government contracts when it comes time to war. Industrial war likes to be at war for a long time because that means more money. So there's a lot of people going to make out. It ain't going to be me, that's for sure. Producer James, when are you going to sing for us? I'm so glad you brought that up. See how it got quietly put to the back burner? Quietly dismissed, quietly forgot. We quietly moved on.
That definitely wasn't the point.
From the promise that he was going to sing for us.
Wait,
he hasn't done that.
The promise made by whom?
Well, by us, the ACTers.
Define us.
Myself and the listeners. That's the royal us. And you promised, we promised for you.
I was going to,
that you were going to sing the greatest hits of the 80s. That was the deal. If God willing, I have children that go off to another endless war in the Middle East, that should be a huge sign. I don't want to get deployed there. Yeah, well said. Paul says, thank you for the background music. I haven't wanted to pick up my guitar in about 5 weeks. It's because I've been jamming on a lot of blues music lately. I was playing the blues when we started the stream, so Paul heard that when we started things out. Is Joe drinking on the stream? That's called White Claw. I need the blues, man. The blues calm me down. There's too much stress in this world. Easy9092. So much for $800 they were going to give taxpayers for the tariffs. Not that I agreed with that idea, but I guess I did not have to argue against it. We all took Biden checks, didn't we? I'll take a Trump tariff check. Yes, sir. I've got bills that need paid. 100%. I pay a lot of taxes. It would be nice to...
I don't want to hear about taxes.
You pay a lot of taxes too. Too many. Michelle Vaughn, good afternoon to you. What about the silent Sharia law war in U.S. unfolding? Is it still silent? I think a lot of people have been talking about it, like here in Texas, for instance. Lots of Texas city neighborhoods are being taken over by big Muslim communities. But there's not just the Muslims, though. There's a lot of Hindus. The largest Hindu statue, pagan idol, is outside of Houston, Texas, down in like, what's the name? Williamsville? Not Williamsville. Oh, what's the name of that town? Williams Trace. Thank you. It was Williams Trace down there. Not good. So yeah, we got big problems right here in River City. Chris Lopez, good afternoon to you, my friend. If you sing, would you do Back in Black by AC/DC? Na 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 na. You go for it, James.
There's been some very dynamic, very diverse requests made by the chat.
Man, I still love the Steven Seagal's version of that. It's so epic. These guys they're from like Finland or Sweden or something, but they dress like they're from Appalachia. Just so hilarious. It's got that dueling banjo vibe. It's so amazing. Da-na-na-na-na. So good, man.
Joe, I've seen you jam out before the show. We know you can
That's
do
not
it.
true.
That's true.
That's not true.
It is true.
Slideless. Well, I was wrong last week. I got too used to the constant Iranian nothing burger. Been offering my prayers for Iranian Christians ever since. Thank you. That's amazing. Praise be to Jesus. I know it, Yvonne. I know it's a different song. I get it, but it's the one AC/DC song that pops into my head first is Thunderstruck. Thunder. Man, reminds me when I was in the Marine Corps. I was in Memphis, Tennessee, and because I outranked everybody because I graduated honor man out of boot camp, and so I got promoted to Lance Corporal, and so I went to my job training in Millington, Tennessee. My job was to march the Marines to and from school. So we had, I don't know how we had to march. It was, I don't know, a mile, whatever. I don't even know. But when we would come close to the school, there was these buildings. It was like like we would march in between these two buildings, and it would be like the approach coming up to the school building, and the instructors would always stand outside waiting for us to arrive. And because I was such a jarhead, I'd memorized Full Metal Jacket, so I'd come into those. I'd come in as I'm coming into the buildings. I just like let my inner drill instructor out. And then I would start saying, lean back, thunder. And they'd just start stomping their feet, and it would just like the earth would shake, and their chest would bulge, and their chin would go up, and all of the instructors would just sit there like proud papas waiting for their sons to come home. It was like the most epic thing ever. Hearing, 100 men with their boots just, crashing into the earth all at the same time. It was just so epic. And so every time I always think about the AC/DC.
I am going to make a compilation of all the times that you either sing or impersonate somebody in the after show, and it is going to be incredible.
Yes, sir. A nice little reel. That'd be fun. By the way, speaking of which, I'm going to be in Buffalo, New York, April 25th through May 1st, 3rd, something like that. I'm going to be there for a week. Let me just get the date up so I stop misquoting everybody. My good grief. I'll just be like having to correct myself, and it would be pointless, won't it? I will arrive April the 26th. That's a Saturday. No, I arrive Sunday. Start over. I arrive Saturday, April the 25th. I will leave Saturday, May the 2nd. And what we're thinking is on May 1st, Friday night, probably like 7:30-ish, a hangout at the studio in Buffalo, New York, and Williamsville. Producer James jamming some tunes for us from the 80s. And
not only me, we have others here too.
And we were going to do like a secret buffalo wing contest, but it's going to be a Friday, so we can't do that. So I don't know. Salmon, secret salmon. It's not even interesting, but we're going to figure something out. We'll have a gathering at the studio. Maybe anybody who's anywhere near Buffalo, New York, want to come hang out. We would love to see you. It'd be amazing. Praise be to Jesus. Paul says, keep Gunslinger in prayers. The second time in a year that the Antichrist, anti-American Communist Party, USA is throwing TSA under the bus. Ooh. Speaking of which, hopefully I'll get to see Damon. Hopefully I will get to see Damon when I pass through DFW, because he works with TSA at DFW. So Damon, I'm going to reach out and let you know when I'm coming through, and hopefully you might be able to stop by my gate so we can hang out for a bit before I move on to Buffalo or back. I'm coming back through the same town, I think. Hey, Douglas Ramikius, boom shakalaka moy. That's Stripes. That's a wholly different movie. Stripes. Bill Murray. Oh man, I watched Stripes at the movie theater as a kid, the drive-in movie theater as a kid. Good grief, Stripes. Can't believe my parents ever let me watch that stuff. So horrible, that movie. so bad for children, but I watched it. Man, oh man, Bill Murray and Stripes. Good grief. Boom shakalaka. Remember the scene where he's going to see the recruiter? And the recruiter asked them, hey, are you gay? And they're like, well, no, but we could be open to it if you want, if you want us to be. So funny. Ah, boy, oh boy. Yvonne says, so technically speaking, I could possibly see Joe for my 55th birthday. Whoa, on the 27th. That's the Monday. Come on by, Yvonne. Come on by. We'll get a birthday cake. That's a Monday, so we could do secret buffalo wings on Monday the 27th for Yvonne's 51st birthday. That'd be amazing.
I'm thinking scrap everything and just throw a birthday party for Yvonne.
Yeah, that's what I said.
And let her just decide everything.
The secret buffalo wing thing.
All the
That's
particulars.
what we just said. We just said that. It's essentially a secret birthday party for Yvonne.
But
she'd have to figure out which buffalo wings come from what location and which ones are the best. That would be good.
Well, you told me the other day that the best buffalo wings in the world come from the Sheridan Hotel in Nashua, New Hampshire.
I know, and I got to get someone to buy some and bring them to Buffalo so we can prove that point.
They taste better when delivered to you by Father Branzich, apparently.
They do. It's true. It's totally true. Rebecca says it's her birthday on the 27th as well. That's pretty cool. 2 ACTers with the same birthday. By the way, keep Rebecca's family, her father in your prayers. I'd be grateful. Special intention for one of our ACT insiders in the Telegram group. Jim, good afternoon to you. Not sure if this is a quick and easy question, but I would like to go to a Latin Mass, but the FSSP in New Hampshire and the SSPX is 40 minutes away. Is there really a difference in the Mass? Is there a difference in the Mass? Okay, I need to ask a clarifying question so I understand exactly what you're asking me. Are you asking me if there's a difference between the Novus Ordo Mass and the Traditional Latin Mass? Then the answer is, of course, yes. If you're asking me if there's a difference between the FSSP and the SSPX, then essentially the answer is no. And as far as I don't know where do you live, Jim? That's the next question. But I could recommend to you, if you Google Mass of the Ages, I think it's latinmass.org, if I remember correctly.
I think so, yep.
They have a map that will show you the locations of all the TLMs in the country. And perhaps there might be one closer to you that you are not aware of. Rosie, good afternoon to you. KZ2, James 16897. Thanks for hanging out on the Rumbles. Angelique, God bless you. God love you. iCatholic Mobile's here as well. We really appreciate your sponsorship. It means a lot to us. iCatholicMobile.com. A big part of what we do here is brought to us by our friends at iCatholicMobile.com. Rosie says, so tired of everything happening in the Middle East. Feels like something has always been happening my entire life with no actual resolutions. Yet nothing ever changes, does it? It's always the same. Hey, Junior Holy Roman Emperor, please not talk about gross films anymore. I know. For some reason, when I was a kid, I thought that stuff was cool. Now, if I try to watch that stuff now, I'm like, I can't do it. I can't watch this. It is too debauched. It is too debauched. Hello from Montreal, Andrea. Good afternoon to you. Glad that you're on the team from sunny Montreal. What's the temperature like? What's the weather like in Montreal right now? That's probably, I mean, now that it's midsummer here in Texas, we're at 82 degrees right now. I'd like to know what it is up there.
Must be nice, Joe. Must be nice.
Well, I mean, yeah, someone's got to have a summertime anyway.
It's 34 here.
Is it really?
34. Yep.
And
that's
so
pretty warm.
You have it made in the shade. Seriously. It's nice. To actually have 4 seasons, you should count yourself blessed. We had a winter. It was a wonderful afternoon. I think it was a Monday at the time.
We do have 4 seasons, but winter is 9 months of it, and then the other 3
So we're the polar opposite. We have summer for 9 months. Now, when we have spring, it is very, very nice here. It's very lovely to have spring down here. It's just not very long. Michelle Vaughn, let's pray for an actual resolution in the Middle East. I am praying for it. I'm just not going to hold my breath. But all things are possible with God. Yep, we all were underwater in the lies of the culture, says Junior Holy Roman Emperor. Unless people had a special grace or better culture or something, I guess. Man, I used to watch a lot of just horrible films. And I just can't do it anymore either. Like even like really violent films, when I watch movies, I prefer to watch with filters. Even for myself. Like the other night, my wife and I watched a movie together. It's just us. I still watched it with filters because I just don't want all this nonsense. I just don't. And if I can get rid of it and still be entertained, then I'll take it. I'll take it. God bless you, Yvonne. Thank you for being a channel member. It means a lot to me. Seriously. Thank you. God bless you. Douglas Remikius, God bless you. Thank you for being a channel member. I really, really appreciate you. It rained cats and dogs here today. Just don't tell the Haitians because they like the cats and dogs. Hey, if you were hungry, you'd eat a cat or a dog. I'm telling you. Let them eat on that bone. I'd eat one. If I was hungry enough, surely I would. Aunt Shelley, good afternoon to you. Janice, God bless you. I'm going to be going to Buffalo, New York in April, at the end of April. Last week in April, I'm going to be in Buffalo, New York, hanging out with producer James. And we're going to do like a meet and greet at the studio. That's the plan. We're going to have some sort of get together, maybe some refreshments. Who knows, a drink. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Oblate, you are amazing. God bless you. Thank you for being on the team. Thank you for your generosity. Being a channel member means a lot to me. Mr. Luke, producer James could sing Talking Heads once in a lifetime. Okay. Go for it, James.
Do we have a running set list somewhere? Like, we need to keep track of all this.
Talking Heads. That's right in your wheelhouse. That's 80s. That should be like perfect for you.
How do you know?
You said you were an expert in the 80s. That's what you said.
I don't know if I worded it exactly like that, but something along those lines.
Mary, God love you. Appreciate you being on the team this afternoon. I hit the wrong button, but we're going to jam anyway.
This is the greatest sound effect from that board that you have.
Happy birthday, Bob. God bless you, Bob. It's Bob's birthday, Mary's husband, today. So let's pray for Bob today. PC says, who wants to hear producer James sing? Literally everyone. Like without exception. The Ayatollah Khomeini wants to hear him sing at this point. I mean, that's how many people.
That'll sell me. Yeah, you got me now. I have to do it.
I trumped you on that one, didn't I? Nicholas Williams, taxation is theft in Minecraft, of course. You know what? What gets under my skin is property tax. It is literally immoral. Honestly. Like, I get that we live in a society and we need to contribute to society. I understand the principle and I am for that principle. But if I can't pay my property tax, they can take my property and sell it to somebody else. Why do I pay a mortgage then? What are we even talking about? Does that make any sense? It's literally immoral. If I buy my property, spend 30 years paying it off, it's my property, not the county, not the state, not the government. Belongs to my family. Why? And if I pass it on to my kids, why do my kids have to pay a tax on that inheritance? This is immoral. This is why I was like, cover the base through tariffs? Fine. Fair enough. Does that mean I have to pay a little more for the product? Sure. Okay. If that's my ability to contribute to society, I'm all right with it. It's much better to do that than it is for me to have to pay property tax and income tax and all the other tax. Property tax is a claim that we do not own our property. Exactly. 100% is terrible. Our theology needs to catch up. What are we catching up on? We changed the nature of warfare. It was the first anonymous war. Hold on. I'm like walking in halfway through. What did I miss? A soldier killed people he never saw. The nature of warfare has changed in this attack on Iran is just another example of modern warfare, anonymous, remote, technological. I was kind of thinking about this the other day, Anthony. Yesterday, maybe I was thinking about this yesterday. We torpedoed that boat and sank it to the sea. Imagine you're the young sailor. Maybe you're 18, 19, 20 maybe. I don't know who shot the torpedo, but you're on that submarine. You received the order from the skipper down through the chief of the watch to you to fire, to whoever, however the chain of command worked. You got the order, you pulled the trigger, you loaded that torpedo into the tube, or you pulled the trigger, one of the two, and now you know that this is not a training exercise. This was for real. And half of that ship's crew, if not more than half, actually it's probably more than half. I think they recovered like 30-some people. It was 180 sailors, 30-some were saved, 80 bodies recovered, everybody else to the bottom of the ocean. Those people never come home. I mean, think about it, you have to live with that. And I know it's war. I get it. But at the same time, you still have to live with that. You still have to contemplate that. People you've never even seen, people that you didn't look into the eye. They weren't necessarily shooting at you. And boy, that's a scary thought if you think about it. And we're shooting missiles across the horizon, beyond the horizon, taking people out we don't know. That girls' school being an example. Who shot this? Still to this day, the Pentagon and Donald Trump have both not commented on who was responsible for that. Pete Hegseth said they're just investigating. That's it. They're investigating. We don't know any more about it than that. Was it us? Was it them? I don't know. I'm not sure. So the fog of war is a dangerous place to be. And my heart breaks for those soldiers that are caught in the fog of war and have to then live with whatever turmoil and trauma that they have to suffer from, in the name of this in this conflict in our country. I'm not a pacifist, by the way. Oblate says, working at the VA, the wounds are deep for warriors. I know they were for my father, too. My dad was career Army. And when I was a kid, in the 80s, my dad was stationed in Stuttgart, 5th General Hospital just outside Stuttgart. And my dad was working in a therapy, it was counseling, Army counseling, drug and alcohol, it was almost like a 12-step type of a program, but it was for the whole family. And a lot of these guys that were drug or alcohol addicts, they would bring the wife, the kids, they'd bring them all to this facility, and they would all go through the program together. They would do individual counseling, and then they would do group therapy, all this stuff. My dad was a part of that. A lot of those guys were all Vietnam vets. They were all just struggling and dealing with the turmoil, the PTSD and trauma that they had received during Vietnam. And back in those days, it wasn't like they called it PTSD. They still didn't really know how to address a lot of this stuff. But I just remember those days, encountering some of those families when I was a kid. Ginny says, I thought the American Revolution was because of taxation without representation. Today, taxes are through the roof. Yeah, well, they sure are, aren't they? I think our taxes are so bad now that they would make George Washington blush. It does break my heart. Douglas, again, Diane, good afternoon. Live goes so fast with our comments, it's hard to keep up. So I will be signing off earlier today here in the next, 7 minutes or so, because I'm going to be hosting for Michael Hitchborn on the Lepanto Institute podcast. It's going to start at 6:30 Eastern Standard Time, and it'll go for an hour. We're going to be talking about Catholic relief services. It should be very good. General Pace, when he was Joint Chief of Staff, he had every single one of his soldiers who were killed in action written in a book, and he kept them in his desk. Yeah, that's honorable. Honestly, you send men to go and do the dirty work and to die. It shows some respect that you would not forget them. So good on him. Good on him. Yeah, Paul, we're going to do a smaller after show today. I was going to scroll backwards and see some old comments, but Liberty Prime, good afternoon. Praise be to God. Blaine, good afternoon. Glad you guys were on the team today. Mountains of Elysium says during World War II, the Pope did save thousands of lives. He knew of the work of Monsignor Hugh O'Flaherty, who saved thousands of escaped Allied POWs and Jews. Plus, there is evidence he was involved in Valkyrie. Yeah, I'm telling you, I keep going back to this book. This book is fantastic. This is a great book on the subject, Church of Spies. You got to read this book. It is a page turner. I mean, literally, I just didn't want to put it down. It was so good. It talks about how the Pope Pius XII, organized the Vatican to not only save Jews, forging baptism documents on their behalf, hiding them in institutions all across Rome. And by the way, Father Charles Murr says, guess how they fed all those people? Stray cats. Yeah. I do have on my shelf, what did I do with it? Right here, Why I Became Catholic by Eugenio Zoli. This book right here, this is an autobiography of the chief rabbi of Rome who converted to the Catholic faith after the war and took the name Eugenio to pay honor to Pope Pius XII. He's clear in his bio when he says he did not convert because of Pope Pius XII. He converted because he believed in the gospel. But he took the name to pay honor. On February 17, 1945, Israel Zoli, the chief rabbi of Rome, and his wife were baptized in the Basilica of St. Mary of the Angels by Monsignor Luigi Traglia. Zoli was the chief rabbi for 35 years before coming to Rome. His deep learning in the scriptures and Semitic literature may be seen in the many books that he's published. Catholic scholars publicly recognize his learning years before his conversion, when they invited him to assist in the work of the Pontifical Biblical Commission and in the compiling of the Italian Catholic Encyclopedia. The former rabbi is now 65, but that's when he's long since passed, but fairly vigorous. He was born in Poland. His mother was a German Jewess, and her side of the family, there were actually 130 years of rabbinical tradition. It is no surprise to find newspaper comment on Zoli's action insolent, at least by implication. For instance, it was neither necessary nor good sportsmanship for certain newspapers to headline the story, Voices Raise Convert Rabbi to Catholicism. Moreover, it was disrespectful and offensive to millions to call the conversion a religious switch, since it was the outcome of at least 12 years of serious thinking and study by a serious-minded ecclesiastic of the synagogue. He talks about that journey in the book, and it's great. I do recommend it. Nicholas says, Joe, when are we getting Knowles on? I've interviewed Knowles twice before. He did a series on Pope Pius XII last year before. I think it was the year before, actually. I think it's a couple of years ago now. Knowles is great. I've interviewed him before. Hard to get. Daily Wire is hard to deal with, honestly. They're really hard to deal with, frankly. I've always wanted to interview Michael or Matt Walsh as well, but we've never been able to line him up. Again, the Daily Wire. That's all I got to say is the Daily Wire. Knowles is wonderful, though. I have enjoyed talking to him. Those interviews are on my YouTube channel. Mr. Luke, I will see you there. God bless you. Thank you for hanging out this afternoon. My husband, says Diane, was in Vietnam and got the Bronze Star. Well, thank you for his service and sacrifice, and never told anyone. Found out when I looked through his release papers after he died. Well, God rest his soul. That's pretty amazing. A lot of guys, they went through so much. There's a lot of trauma there. And maybe they probably just want to remember. They didn't want to talk about it. May he rest in peace. I do agree. God bless you guys. We're going to cut it short today. As I said, I'm going to be hosting for Michael Hitchborn, so I need to sort of get into transition mode here and get set up for that. Tomorrow on the team, though, is we're going to have Ed Mazza here. Dr. Ed Mazza is coming back. I've interviewed him a couple of times before. He's got a book out called Saints and Anti-Popes. Saints versus Anti-Popes, rather, by Dr. Ed Mazza. We're going to be talking to him about that. Dr. Anthony Stein is also on the team with Fridays with Stein, so we'll probably get into some trouble. We'll see how it goes. Hey, if you could, wherever you're listening, hanging out, subscribe, like, share. It does help us. it helps us to reach new listeners, new viewers, because you're juicing the algorithm. So if you could do that, I'd be grateful. God bless you. God love you. We'll see you right back here tomorrow afternoon.